Hi, it's Nick Leatherland here from Pegasus Property. We're a development company based in Stoke-on-Trent. We specialise in HMOs, buy-to-lets, flips, commercial to residential conversions. We've done 33 projects in 2 years. This video is talking about saturation. What is saturation? HMO saturation in particular. The meaning of saturation tends to mean you've got a lot of the same thing. So in this video I was going to talk about what is saturation, things like market positioning, what's the difference between saturation and competition, and a little bit about people who aren't really doing it properly, the strategy properly, that is. HMO, I did my first HMO like 9 years ago now. HMO was always known as a bit of a student and DSS, which is people on benefits sort of strategy. There was people doing HMOs for professionals many years ago, probably before I was born. But it's become a more mainstream strategy focus, and sort of the past sort of 2 years, maybe 3 years maximum. So when I was doing my HMO 9 years ago, and I was doing that for professionals, there wasn't really, as far as I was aware, there wasn't a lot of other people doing it. Everyone was focusing on students and stuff. So 2 years ago, I started Pegasus Property with Colclough, my business partner. When I left the Royal Navy, I was in the Royal Navy for 9 years. So I left the Royal Navy when I was 29. I'm 30 now. So we're doing okay for ourselves. We've done a lot of projects, like I said, 33 projects in 2 years, primarily HMOs. And our focus is totally on young working professionals. That's a niche that we've carved out in the market ourselves, and that's what we specialise in. So, this kind of bandwagon's come along, and this is what happens in property community. So as I start getting involved in the property communities online, and networking and things like that, I've kind of realised that there's a real herd mentality. So people are just jumping on this bandwagon, and they're going along for the ride. But problem is that you can't do some of these strategies half-heartedly. Things like service accommodation, HMOs, it's very hands-on. It's like running hotels really. So you're kind of more in the hospitality industry as opposed to the investment industry, and that's kind of the problem, is that property, a lot of people want to invest in property. They don't actually want to run a business. And running a HMO or running SA is running a business. They just want to put their money into something and forget about it. They don't want to be bothered with what's going on. So, companies like mine, we source it and we renovate it and we let it. So you can invest in HMOs with us and be hands off, and that's what people are after. But there is a lot of people who, I don't really know what it is. I think maybe they're kind of tight with money, or they're just trying to get more bang for their buck. So they're willing to sort of like do things themselves more, rather than paying someone like me. Or why would I pay him a sourcing fee? I can go source it myself. It's not hard. I've paid 20 grand to do this course. I know what I'm doing. Or why would I pay these guys to project manage it for me? I can go find my own builder, and that's going to save me money. I'm going to pick a cheap builder so I make more money as well. Sorry, that's my dog. Oi, be quiet. I'm recording. Naughty dog. So they're basically trying. People trying to get things done cheap. They're probably buying a property in a cheaper area of town because it's cheaper, and they're looking at it from a numbers perspective only. So they're not looking at it from a practical perspective, which is like, can I let the rooms here? Is this a nice area? How far away is this from a local employer or a local train station, hospital, university, whatever the local, the reason for people wanting to live in the HMO for, what's local to it. When I'm doing a HMO, I'm like buying it in a good area, and I know my areas as well, and I'm doing it to a good standard, and I've got good management in place, and I'm ticking all the boxes, and as a result, guess what? My rooms are let all the time. People who are buying it in a cheaper area, or they're getting the renovation done on the cheap, or whatever, they've got like a poor letting agency in place. And they could have a good letting agency in place, but because they've given a good letting agency a shit deal, basically, which is a shitty house or whatever, they're struggling to fill those rooms, and that happens to us sometimes. We're trying our very best, and we can't fill rooms because we've been given a house in not the best of areas, so, or whatever. So what I mean. So you end up dropping your rents down to the point where you're like, well, I'm not even making any money on this. Your repairs bill was high because you didn't do the renovation properly in the first place, because you're cutting corners, and then you're getting bad tenants because you're dropping the rents, and then they're not paying rent on time, and they're causing more damages, and it's a big downward spiral basically. And so people exit the market. They jump in, they jump on the bandwagon and they jump off it again very quickly because they've had a go and they've decided it's not for them because they've done it wrong basically. And these are the people that they tend to shout like saturation. It's saturated. It's not saturated. You know, you just didn't do it properly basically, and now you're telling everyone it is saturated. So you know, the market's not saturated if you're doing it properly. And this is going to bring me on to my second point, which was talking about market positioning. So market positioning is something I've known about for a very long time, but I guess when I spoke to Julian Maurice, who does the interior design workshop, he put it in a way that just made me kind of have a real good understanding of it. So, you know, shout out to Julian. Check him out. He's awesome. He's got beautiful properties. He's not a guy that struggles to fill rooms. Guess what? His properties are in good locations and they're done up to a really nice standard and they're really well managed. So he's always renting his rooms out. And that's market positioning. You know, you've got the high-end market and you've got the low-end market. I don't call it the low-end market. I call it the value end of the market, which I guess is a more politically correct term for it. And then you've got the middle part of the market here. And a lot of successful brands operate on the spectrums of the market. I guess if you were to look at it like supermarkets, you know, Tesco's and Asda are kind of sitting here in the middle, like, you know, and on the fringes of the market, you've got like Aldi in Iceland and stuff, and Lidl down here, who are doing really, really well for themselves. And you've got Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose up on this end of the spectrum of the market, and they're doing very well for themselves either. And in here, you've got all the noise, basically, you've got the shitty noise in here. And it's the same in property. You know, in the middle here, you've got all the magnolia walls and brown carpet people, and all the rents are the same. And then you've got these guys down here whose properties look potentially, you know, the same as the middle part of the market, but they're cheaper or whatever, or they could actually look quite nice, and but their value end of the market because they're shared bathrooms or whatever in HMOs, you know. And up here you got the high end part of the market. Now, you know, if you've got saturation, you know, this part of the market could be saturated, the middle part of the market could be saturated. If you're operating on these fringes, then you should be filling rooms basically. You should, you know, be ticking the boxes: location, good rent, good management, good quality accommodation. Ticking those boxes, and you're on the fringes. You know, you're going to be filling your rooms basically. It's simple as that. If this part of your market is saturated, as in loads of people are doing value end of the market, then you do this bit. If this bit's saturated, you do this bit. If this bit's saturated, you do this bit. Do you know what I mean? So it's market positioning. You know, if you're not filling your rooms, you've done something wrong basically. Now, I'm not stupid. I know that saturation does exist. Of course it does. You know, if you have like 20 million HMO rooms in a city and there's only 10 million people that want to live in those rooms, I guess that is saturation. But I prefer to think of it as competition. Basically, if you're market positioning yourself correctly and you're cutting edge and you've got something over your competition, you'll be filling your rooms. But basically, it's getting more competitive. And that's what business is. You know, you get more competitive, you rise up to the challenge, you come up with new ideas. It's exciting. You know, you're out there at war. You're hunting, you're killing, you're at war. You know, this is what I enjoy about business. You know, I enjoy the hunt and kill of doing a deal. It gives me a real buzz. You know, I enjoy coming up with ideas and cutting edge strategies and basically kicking my competition's ass, which I get a real buzz off as well because I'm very competitive. So, you know, basically rise up to the challenge. If you don't, then do something else. Go into a different strategy that's not as competitive. But if you've got the herd mentality and you're just following everybody else, you know, either get someone like me to do it for you who's actually going to do it properly, or don't do it at all, in my opinion, because you're just going to have a go at it. And if you're not going to do it properly, then don't bother, because it's not just an investment strategy where you can kick back and relax. You know, it's very hands-on. I've heard horror stories about service accommodation where people are like, yeah, every weekend it's taking up my weekends, and I basically just got a 9 to 5 job sort of thing. You know, so if that's not what you want, if you want to invest in property and you want to be able to kick back and relax, you know, do buy to lets. Or if you want to do something like HMOs, service accommodation, get someone else to do it for you. There's loads of good companies around the UK that are doing it at the minute. So yeah, do due diligence on people, obviously. I'm sure if you Googled my name, I'd come up with something like Property Tribes, where, you know, I basically took down all of those people on there who were trying to have a go at me. So, you know, if you want a bit of a laugh, go on there and have a look. So Yeah, thank you very much for watching. I run a group called Unity, which is a developers community. It's a fun place to get educated. There's no sharks or gurus in there. It's community driven, so we meet up every month. We have a special guest speaker come along, which the community typically asks for, and I go and find them and get them in. We do webinars, we do online masterminds. There's discounts available to the group through affiliate members in the group. And we've got loads of expertise in there, and we're all developers. We're all doing developments. You know, there's nobody in there who's just kicking back and watching. And also, that's only £50 a month, £50 for the first month, sorry, to subscribe to that. That's unitycommunity.co.uk if you want to join. Also, I've got a book called The Developers Refurb Manual, which is £3.99. And also, I've got a workshop that I run. So I actually take people around real projects that I'm doing. We've got commercial to residential conversions, we've got HMOs, we've got buy-to-lets, we've got loads of different projects on. I'll take you around, I'll show you how I source them, I'll show you how I project manage the renovations. I'll basically just tell you as much as I can. Everyone that's ever done my workshop, and there's been a few hundred people that have done it so far, they've always fed back and said it was excellent. So I'll put links to all this stuff in the description. So thank you very much for watching. I'm Nick Leatherland. Take it easy. Bye.